I always like to bring something that I think is interesting to any of our presentations that we have on Thursday. And I discovered this TED Talk. And since we're talking about Gmail settings, I thought this might be an interesting video to see. I'm only going to play 3 minutes of it, but I will share the link with Judy so that if you want to watch the entire thing, you'll be able to. I do have the closed captions turned on. The gentleman is from England, but I lived there for a while, so I don't find his accent too hard to understand. So hopefully it will be clear for you guys as well. And you should be seeing TED, Ideas Worth Spreading. Yes, just a couple of thumbs up. Okay. And I should have audio already on, so I just have to move my lovely people out of my way so I can touch my control. And you're hearing clapping? Okay.
A few years ago, I got one of those spam emails. And it managed to get through my spam filter. I'm not quite sure how, but it's turned up in my inbox, and it was from a guy called Solomon Odonka. I know. It went like this. It said, hello, James Veitch. I have an interesting business proposal I want to share with you, Solomon. Now, my hand was kind of hovering on the delete button. Right? As you are, I was looking at my phone. I thought, I could just delete this. Or I could do what I think we've all always wanted to do. And I said, Solomon, your email intrigues me. And the game was afoot. He said, Dear James Veitch, we shall be shipping gold to you. You will earn 10% of any gold you distribute. So I knew I was dealing with a professional. I said, how much is it worth? He said, we will start with a smaller quantity. I was like, ah. And then he said, of 25 kilograms. The worth should be about 2.5 million. I said, Solomon, if we're going to do it, let's go big. I can handle it. How much gold do you have? He said, it's not a matter of how much gold. How much is you're capable of handling? What? We can start with 50 kilograms as a trial shipment. I said, 50 kilograms? There's no point doing this at all unless you're shipping at least a metric ton. So what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a hedge fund executive bank manager. This isn't the first time I've shipped bullion, my friend. No, no, no. Then I started to panic. I was like, look, where are you based? I don't know about you, but I think we're going via the postal service. It ought to be signed for. Right, that's a lot of gold. He said, it will not be easy to convince my company to do a larger quantity shipment. And I said, Solomon, I'm completely with you on this one. I'm putting together a visual for you to take into the board meeting. Hold tight. This is what I sent Solomon.
So I just wanted to share that with you. There are a couple of other people who have actually used the spam email for inspiration. And one gentleman turned his odyssey with the spammers into a two-person play that he was traveling around the country demonstrating, but he had chosen to answer a particular spam email, and it took a year for that whole thing to play out. So I just wanted to share that with you, that there might be maybe another way to deal with a spammer. And so Dave, over to you now.
Okay. Well, it may be a little hard to follow, but what I'm going to do, so yesterday, I showed you some things about Google Calendar, which is Gmail, the Google Calendar. Today we're going to look at Google's email program called Gmail. And I'm actually doing several presentations on this. This one is talking about some settings in Gmail that are useful. And then next week, I think I'm going to do some stuff on labels, using labels for organizing, and also how to keep your inbox small. So doing a few different Gmail ones, but we're starting with this setting one. Let's see. Can everybody see? I don't think I've got this.
Yes,
right.
it looks good.
You can see the Gmail settings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm not seeing the little green thing for some reason. Okay. So oops, that's the wrong link. I'll have to fix that. So if you go to, this is actually gmail.com. I just saw a bug in this document that I'll fix and send to you, Judy. Okay. So when you're in Gmail, there's different displays that you might have in there. So there are hundreds of things you can customize in Gmail. So I had to pick just a few of them to show you today that might be useful. And the way you get to the settings is this little gear. Can everybody see that? It says number 1 and the gear.
Dave, can you increase the view?
Let me make sure.
You can do it.
Hang on 1 second. Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm showing the desktop. That's a problem.
There you go. That's a little bigger. Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so can everybody see that? Yeah, that's why I didn't see the green, because I shared the wrong thing. Okay, so this gear right here is the way to get to the menu of things, other things you can do in Gmail, or the settings. And when you click on that, you'll see this link called See All Settings. Okay, there's lots of different ways of doing settings for labels and stuff that you can do without doing it this way, but this is the easiest way. And when you do that, the page will change over to the settings page. Can you see that? It says settings here. And on the top will be a whole bunch of links. Okay, this gives you an idea of how many things you can change in Gmail. See, there's a dozen or so different pages inside of the setting system. And we'll just talk about a few of them, but I thought I would go over what these mean. So, but when you start up, it normally will take you to the general settings. And we'll talk about a few of those in a minute. And then right here, can you see that? This thing inside the red thing outline here are all these different labels, all these different links, excuse me. So the next one is labels. And that's for these things down the left side that look like folders, but actually are not. We'll talk about that on a different day. And then you can do some fine tuning of the way your inbox looks. I'll show you a couple of things about that. The accounts and imports, which is this guy right up here, lets you do things like change your password. You can add in new email accounts. If you have an old email and you want to pull in all the emails from it, it has a system for doing that. So that's all about doing importing and setting up new accounts. Then there's filters and blocked addresses. That's this guy right here. When I took this screenshot, I had the window pretty small, so it ends up these coming out in 3 lines. They're usually 2 lines. And I'm doing a whole talk on how to use this system. That takes considerably more time. Excuse me a second.
So Janji had a question, and
Okay.
it was if there was an issue with Chrome and Gmail,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of different problems that can come up. So if she has something specific, I just asked her to let us know.
Good. Yeah, I can stop this in the middle and we can do some chatting about this. So when I'm talking about Gmail here, this is a web-based application. And so you can run this application on any browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, the various PC browsers, and so on and so forth. And you'll get pretty much the same experience. There might be slight differences in the way things look based on how I resized the screen here and so on. But and also there's a thing down here called themes, and I've got this wood theme on my Gmail, but there's all different kinds of overall look and feel of your Gmail. You can change the colors and things like that. Anyways, you can also forward your Gmail account to another email. That's what forwarding is. Add-ins or some special add-ons you can do in Gmail. I don't think that would be of great interest. Gmail contains its own little chat and meeting room thing, which I don't use, but I'll show you how to turn that off. This oftentimes they'll come in here. You can see it's got this meeting thing, and I'll show you how to get rid of that. Okay, there's some advanced settings which we won't really talk about today. If you're, depending on your browser, if you're using Chrome, you can actually set up to look at your email offline. The themes I already talked about, that's the backgrounds and colors. And then there's keyboard shortcuts, which I won't be talking about, although I do use these. This is a way of quickly getting to some of the menu items in Gmail. I tend to use keyboard shortcuts for lots of things, but most normal humans don't. So I would
Dave,
skip that.
I
Yes.
do have a question. People are asking, where do you find settings on different devices,
Okay. What
in
I'm
particular an
talking
iPad?
about is the Gmail website. Okay, so this is really not dependent on the browser you're using. If you just go to gmail.com, or I think it's google.com/mail, if I'm not mistaken, then let me just see, I've got it over here. Yeah, mail.google.com. My handout said calendar, but this should say mail. Mail.google.com is this website that lets you look at your email. And as I mentioned before, you can attach this to other kinds of email. It doesn't have to be a Gmail account if you want to use this. And that's where this accounts and import will come in. I'm not going to talk about that today, but let's say you had your account through MSN or something else. If you really wanted to use this Gmail interface, you could do that and just attach it to a completely different email system. But normally people would go to, in that case, the Microsoft MSN email system. And it may very well have similar settings to Gmail, but I'm just going to talk about the Gmail ones today. Any other questions at this point?
I think we're pretty good. Just wanted to make
Okay.
sure that we knew which one we were looking at.
Right, so this handout, if you can't remember what all these things are, this tells you what they are. And so why would you want to bother with all of this? Well, there's a few things that are handy. One is by default, you only see 50 messages at a time when you're scrolling around. I changed that to 100. That's most useful when you're cleaning out your inbox and stuff like that, which I'm going to talk about another day. But that's one of the things, and this is all on the general page. There's also a couple of settings that might be of interest to you. There's an autocorrect setting so that when you are like me and have trouble spelling, it will automatically fix your spelling mistakes. And then it has a smart compose and a smart reply. So as you're typing, it'll guess what you're going to say and give you a chance to and sort of type ahead a little bit. And I can show that to you if we have time later. And I find that useful. The thing about using Google Mail or Gmail is that it has automated systems that look at all your email and categorizes them. We'll talk about that later. And also as you're typing, it's looking at what you're typing and it can help you if you want. If this bothers you, then don't turn it on, okay? There's other things. Some people like to have a signature chunk on the bottom of every email. This is particularly for businesses, but some people like that, where you might want to have a picture you put at the bottom automatically of every email. And that's called a signature, and you can set that on the general page. The thing to keep in mind with the Gmail settings is as you're making these changes, it doesn't get set until you scroll to the bottom of the page and click Save Changes. That's true on any of the settings pages. So if you try to go back to your inbox, it'll say, do you want to discard changes? And you'd say, no, I want them. But the easiest thing is to click this button before once you've made the changes that you want. Okay, any questions on the general page? So I can do a quick demo of that while we're here. So I've just pulled up one of Judy's emails. Can everybody see that? So I'm actually in mail.google.com. Up here is the settings gear. And when I click on that, up comes this thing. It gives me a chance to do a few things we'll talk about today. But what I normally do is go to See All Settings. And then it starts in general, but you see if I click on these other ones, then they turn blue, and we'll actually look at some of these other pages today as well. And then I talked about this thing that controls how many messages it displays at one time. I really wish they made this bigger, but they didn't. You can control all kinds of things. So look at all the stuff just on this one page. Okay, and then you can set your picture and the text you do messages in, all kinds of stuff. This is down where you do the signature and all kinds of other stuff. Okay, and then in this case I haven't made any changes, so if I click on the inbox, it'll just go back there. So any questions while I'm on this page? Okay. So, like I say, don't forget to click the Save button. If you do, the worst case is that it'll ask you, and if you just say discard the changes, you can always do them again. The next page, which is the labels page, lets you control the labels that are on the side of your email. So, for example, so you see I have lots of labels. I'll talk about that another day. But if I come over here and click on labels, this is the part of the thing I'm talking about. So let's say I wanted to see this important tag that it has. It decides that certain messages are important. So if I click on that, then you'll see it shows up right here. And if I hide it, it goes away. Okay, that's what I'm talking about here. So for the system labels,
Dave,
which I'll talk about when I do the, yes.
Dave, let me interrupt here. If I'm looking at things in the chat, I think people are misunderstanding about accessing their Gmail from their device versus through a browser and going
Right.
to the, so in other words, make believe you don't have your device. You were going to go check your email and you were at somebody else's house.
Sure.
Right? This is the way Dave is accessing this. It's not through what your device knows So Dave, could you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. There's lots and lots of different ways of reading email, whether you have a Gmail account or not. Okay, so if you're on your phone, and if it's an Apple phone, Apple has an email program, Google has an email program. On the iPad, it's the same thing. And if you go into your app store, there's going to be lots and lots of programs. That's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is looking at your email through a web browser like Safari or Chrome or Firefox or Judy, what are the most popular PC ones these days?
Chrome.
Chrome.
Chrome
Okay.
has the largest market share
Yeah,
of any of them.
Microsoft has had various browsers over the years as well, but I haven't used them in a while. So what I'm talking about today is specifically doing your email through a browser, not through one of those programs. Does that help?
Yeah, but then Rose is saying she's using a PC. What she's talking about is what's showing up on the share screen in terms of, she's only seeing the first page. Are there subsequent pages?
So Rose, you should see this thing with an arrow, a red arrow, and it says system labels. Is that what you're seeing?
Rose,
If not, you're probably not in Zoom.
Rose, can you explain better what you mean?
Oh, what I mean is Dave is talking about like system labels and general settings and all this.
Right.
And that's not showing up on the share screen. The only thing I see on the share screen is a page that says Gmail settings, and it's got an arrow with a 1 and a 2, but there's not a screen that says, oh, these are label settings, these are general settings. That's not showing up on the share screen.
That's
Can
not what I'm seeing. I'm
can
seeing
everybody else see a page that says the labels page controls?
Yes, I see it.
Okay. I'm not sure what you're looking at, Rose.
I see it.
So what kind of device are you on, Rose?
I'm on a PC.
Yeah, make sure you're in the Zoom application because Judy might have, I don't know if Judy's emailed this out.
No,
But
I am.
what
I
it
am
sounds
in
like
Zoom.
you're seeing is up at the top of this. You're seeing the first page of this.
Right.
So I have no idea why you're not seeing it as I'm scrolling through it.
And maybe her screen froze.
Yeah,
That's possible.
you might want to, go out of Zoom or switch to another program and come back. And if that doesn't work, then leave Zoom and come back into
Yeah,
the
come
meeting.
back, Rose, and then I'll let you in
Judy can let
immediately.
you back.
Okay, I'll leave and come back in. Maybe my screen froze. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. I always say that computers are the antidote for a tranquil mind. And so, if you have some dire shortage of aggravation, there's nothing like a computer. Okay. So, anyways, so I showed this to you live a second ago. Hopefully you saw that. So, and I have a whole separate talk on labels, so don't worry too much about understanding exactly what these are. We'll talk about those another day. But if you don't like some of them or you don't want to see them, it's easy to make them go away and come back on this labels page. And the same is true with a thing called categories. So categories are where Gmail looks or Google looks at your email and decides that things are promotions or social or whatever. It has a whole bunch of categories. And I normally just hide all these. That's why these are black. But if I show some of them, I can show you what that does. So there, you won't see that over here. But if I come down here and say, yeah, let's look at these guys here, then you'll see I now have this categories thing. If I turn them all on, then there'll be a categories thing, and under it will be these things here. So I normally don't use these, so I just hide them all. Okay. And if you click the hide next to categories, it just hides all of them. Okay. That's this button right here. Okay. And then below that will be any labels that you have created. And if you decide you want to hide some, you can. Or it also has other things there I'll talk about another day to let you rename them and whatnot. But I don't want to spend too much time on labels today. Okay. And then the next settings page is inbox. And this lets you actually control what you see at the top of your inbox. You can see your unread messages. You can decide which ones Gmail thinks are important and things like that. The default is just most recent first. So the newest one's on the top. And that's what most people do. The other thing you can do on the inbox page is you may see some tabs for the categories above your inbox. And if you do, you can turn them off. And when you turn them all off, which I have, then you won't see them on your inbox. I think when you first get into Gmail, so what I'm talking about is this inbox page here. And if I turn some of these on, okay, then, and if I go back to my inbox, oh, you see it says confirm the, and so I'll hit cancel here and I'll go to the bottom. See, I told you guys to do that, so do what I say, not what I do. So if I click inbox here, it's being a little slow. But when it comes in, you see these things on the top. That lets you look at only the promotions in your inbox and things like that. And I don't particularly like that, so I turn it off. And the way you do that is to go back into your settings. And then we're going to go to inbox. And we're just going to turn them all off. And then those little tabs will disappear. And it even tells you that when you deselect everything, that they'll go away. There's some other stuff here for your inbox if you want, but I'm not going to talk about that today because of the time we have available. Okay. Any questions come in so far? Okay. Okay, then
I have a question.
Sure.
My whole column on the left side that says inbox, sent, etc. It always seems to disappear, and I have to hover over it to get it to reappear.
What kind of device are you on, Roz?
PC.
And Dave, that's a new feature with Gmail, is to make that navigation pane reduced to icons.
Well, there's a little thing up here. Is that what you're talking about? There's a button up here to switch whether you see the names of the stuff or not.
Where it says compose?
But right above compose is they call these a hamburger menu, hamburger menu icon. It's meant to look like, or pancakes. It's 3 horizontal lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, when you click on that, it switches between showing you the name and not. But that's not what you're talking about, Ron?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, because it disappears like inbox.
Yeah, well, that's probably because you're hitting this accidentally. Maybe when you're trying to hit compose, you hit this button.
Dave, it now does that automatically at certain times.
Can you pin it on?
You can probably turn that off.
Yeah, I think you do have to change it now.
Oh, I see.
So that it stays.
That may be we can take a look for that setting if we have time. It's probably under general settings, I would guess, or maybe advanced. But there's bound to be a setting to turn that off because I don't have that problem. We can take a look at that later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, Manette. Does that help, Roz? So if that happens, just click that button, and maybe if you do it enough, it'll know not to annoy you. If not, we'll find the setting for turning it off.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have an email, so I would set this up in addition to my email and have 2 different emails then? Is that how?
What is your email?
It's with iCloud.
Ah, right. Okay, so you normally use the Apple email program.
Yes.
I can do another talk on the equivalent thing for that program, but what I'm talking about today is the Google Mail.
But
You
what I want,
definitely could use this email interface instead of the email program that comes with the Mac.
could I use both? Could I use both?
Yeah, you could
iCloud?
use both if you wanted to,
And
sure.
then how would I access this one? Separate it. How
This
would
is
I get
through
to
the
it?
browser. Yeah, this is through Safari, or you're on a Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be through Safari or Chrome or Firefox, whatever browser you like to
So I
use.
would write in Gmail. I would write Gmail at the top to get it.
Yeah, it's gmail.com or mail.google.com.
Excuse me.
It just depends on whether you're happy with the email program. If there's enough interest in that, then we can do a talk about that. Or if that's something in particular, on Thursday mornings, I do Mac stuff. And you could come in to what we do is the Apple Addicts meeting on Thursday mornings and ask about that. And I can show you how to do it on the Mac for the email program there.
I heard that Google wasn't private though, that Google's not a good thing to use because it's not private.
Right. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you use this. Yeah, as I mentioned, Google is looking at your mail, and that's one of the advantages of not using this. Sure. Yeah. So, but yeah, what I'm talking about today is Gmail. But yeah, if there's enough interest in that, Judy, I can certainly do a similar one for different email programs.
What's the advantage of having both at the same time? Is there an advantage to have 2?
Well, Gmail has, it's a good question. Gmail is an extremely powerful program for looking at your email, particularly for finding things, not surprisingly, since it's Google, they're good at searching. And it has certain features that the Apple email doesn't. But I think if you're happy with the email that you have now, then I just wouldn't worry about it. I would just stay with what you've got for sure.
Thank you.
If it's not broke, right? So, but if you could go onto your Safari and Google Apple email versus Gmail, and I'm sure there's lots of websites that have talked about what's different between them and why you might want to use one or the other. I've been using Gmail for a number of years now and find it very useful and helpful. But if your main concern is privacy, that nobody can see your emails, then I would stay with what you've got.
Hey, Dave, we've got some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So Suzanne is asking, what is this snoozed?
Ah, okay. I actually have another thing on that, but let me just explain it. When you, let's say I do compose and I'm going to, let me make this bigger. So let's say I'm sending an email. Let me try that again. So let's say I'm going to send an email to Judy, right? And I'll make this a test. And so down here, can everybody see this? Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Can everybody see that? I'm composing an email in Gmail.
Yeah.
Right here is a send button. On the send, there's this little arrow. And if I say schedule email, then I can actually schedule this to go out later. So I could say, send it out tomorrow morning. And when I do that, do you see this scheduled has a 1 next to it? That means there's sort of one interesting message is normally unread messages. And if I click that, oh, yeah.
Dave, if I may.
It wants me to leave the settings and go over to schedule. Yes.
Snooze is actually the feature that allows you to temporarily hide an
Oh, that's
email
right.
that
Sorry.
comes in
You're exactly right. Yeah,
versus scheduled.
there's scheduled and snoozed. These are actually two different things. I stand corrected. Let me go ahead and turn that on for my email so I can show it to you. These are the buttons at the top when you're looking at a message. So let me go to the labels and turn on snoozed. Okay. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. So if I go back to my inbox and let's say, oh, I have to turn those off again. So if what I can do is there's at the top here is this little clock that says snooze. And if I click on that, this is Moniette's handouts, it goes away from the inbox and goes over to this snoozed label. So there's the Moniette's thing. So that's what snoozed is. That's a little clock on the top of, there's a whole bunch of buttons that come in here. Let me find one of Judy's emails. So up on the top, it has a whole bunch of different buttons, like for trashing things, reporting stuff as spam. I can mark it as unread. This is the snooze button. I can move it to a label. I can change the labels on it and so on. There's actually a bunch of things you can do when you're looking at an email. And so snooze is, I always confuse snooze and schedule probably because they start with S's. But yeah, this is the snooze one. And the idea is I want to look at this, but I don't want to look at it right now. So I'll just snooze it. And then if I go and look at it here, it will, I believe, it doesn't tell me when it's going to unsnooze. The scheduled one will tell you when it's going to send. But if I unsnooze it, then you can see the one went away there and it'll be back in my inbox. There, it just showed up. Okay.
We have a couple of questions in the chat. One is about syncing Gmail accounts between iPhone and PC. And then the other one is explanation a little bit more about Gmail being a web-based email and the difference between downloading to your computer or how the emails get to the computer.
Sure. Why don't you hold on to those, because I think we're relative. I don't want to make sure we get through the setting stuff.
That's what I was.
And I can answer any other Gmail questions or try to at the end. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm not going to talk very much about this. This is how you set up new accounts. If you wanted to look at a different account on Gmail, I have lots of different email accounts, so they're all set up through this page. Okay. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about on the settings is if you don't like that little meet and chat section on the left, you can get rid of them on this chat and meet page. And as you saw, this is a very rich system for customizing this application. This is what they call a web-based application, or an application you run in your browser. And it has all kinds of options. And the way you can figure out how to do something is just Google it, and it'll probably explain which of these various setting pages will do what you want. And there are some good guides. This is one from a site called How to Geek that has a whole set of lessons on how to use Gmail. But there are lots of other good sites out there, both YouTube videos and websites for doing that. So let me just unshare for a moment and we can just go through what other questions. Sounds like more of the questions are related to Gmail rather than the settings.
Okay,
Did people have settings questions or just more generic Gmail questions?
So a lot of the stuff you're asking for me to put into the chat, it is in the handout that you'll be getting. So as long as you put your email in the chat to me, I will send you that as opposed to dissecting every link. I did, however, put the link into how to open a Gmail account because that was not in the handout. So let's see. We had some good questions here. How to get rid of the archive category, i.e. just deleted an email, not save in archive.
So you cannot. That is a default category that Gmail has. You can delete emails permanently, but the archive category is not one that you can delete. That is a default in Gmail.
Right. Yeah, you can go into your trash and permanently delete emails.
Or you can wait 30 days and Gmail will permanently delete your emails out of trash for you.
Is that a
So
setting?
I don't know if you go into the archive whether it gives you an option of just doing a permanent delete on something. I've never
Yes,
tried.
you can from archive.
So just like on the trash, you can probably go in and hit the trash again when you're in the archive and it says, do you want it permanently deleted? So if you want it off of Google period, that would be the thing to do. Either do it, if you do it in the trash or in the archive, then that email just goes away from their system. And then there were questions about what I'm talking about, which I apologize if it's confusing today. What I'm talking about is specifically the web-based Gmail application. If you have a gmail.com email, then you're probably familiar with this. If you have iCloud.com or MSN.com or any other email, you may very well get your email in a different way, either through a program on your computer, your Mac or your PC, or on an app on your phone or tablet. And that's not what I'm talking about today. But, I'd be happy to talk about those, but that's not what I was trying to talk about today anyway. And the difference between using a standalone application on your PC like Outlook, or in the case of the Apple computers, they have the Mail program, M-A-I-L. And those give you similar features. Judy can certainly talk about Outlook. I've used it, but she's more the expert. So there's a whole bunch of different email programs. And in terms of synchronizing your email, the way email works these days is the email resides on a server and you can access your email from anywhere. Okay, so if you are looking at your email on your phone through a special email program and you go to a browser, then there's a good chance you can look at your email through that. It depends a little bit on your particular email system as to which browser application you use. But you can definitely look at your iCloud email on a browser. You don't have to use the Mail program. You could set up your iCloud account on Gmail and look at it through Gmail. And the Gmail application works both for gmail.com addresses and anything else. But the emails aren't normally put onto your computer. They're kept on the internet so you can see them from anywhere. In the old days, going back before the internet became super popular, we used an older protocol. So there's two ways that your computer or your device gets email from the server. One's called POP and the other's called IMAP. And most people don't use POP anymore. POP would actually, the reason I call it POP is it pops it off the server and loads it on your computer. The reason people don't use that anymore is you might not be next to your computer when you want to look at your email. So it's much more convenient to have it on the internet, leave it on the cloud so you can get to it from any device or any computer in the world. That's much more convenient. In the old days, when you downloaded your email onto your computer, if you weren't home or at work or wherever you had done that, you couldn't get access to that email. So that's why people don't do it anymore. Does that help? Yeah, so almost all email now is kept on the cloud. That's actually an option under the POP protocol. That's not how it was normally used.
So we've got some good questions, Dave, but I want to first say, does anybody specifically have questions about settings before we get into some of these other questions? Nope.
Yeah, it's just like yesterday I was talking about Google Calendar. There's lots of calendar systems out there. There's lots of email systems out there. I'm just talking about this particular one today.
Okay, so I'm going to go from the bottom up here just to make sure I cover it. So Uncle Paul is he's saying, is a web-based email better for avoiding viruses?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
I would say if you're talking about a virus actually infecting your computer, it may not make much difference now if you open attachments or you click on a link, because that's where the danger actually is. It's not where the email resides, it's what you do with the email.
Right. I mean, if you downloaded an email program that you never heard of, it might contain a virus. Okay. But most people wouldn't do that. I think the point Manette brings up is an excellent one. You want to be really careful when you click on things in email. So I spent 2 minutes doing a thing on security. If you're in your browser looking at your email like we're talking about today, make sure that there's a option there that lets you turn on your status display is what it's called. And when you hover over a link, it will show you where that would go. On a phone or a iPad, if you just touch a link in an email and keep your finger there, it'll preview it and show you where you would go if you actually click that link. So don't click links without looking at where they're going to send you, because that can be a bad problem. Or the one that Manette brought up is oftentimes people will put attachments on and it'll say that it's a picture or another kind of file, but it's actually an executable file. This happens a lot on PCs. You can rename an executable file to pretend it's something else, and when somebody clicks on it, it runs that program on your PC and could add a virus to your computer. So the real danger is downloading attachments, particularly on email programs that will download and run them, like some of the PC ones do that. The nice thing about Gmail is it has this special label called spam. And we were talking about, I don't want Google to see my email. Well, one of the advantages of that is when it's looking at the email, if it doesn't like the look of it, it doesn't trust the attachments or doesn't like the links in the email, instead of putting it in your inbox, it will put it in your spam label or spam folder. And you can see that off on the side. There's a spam label there. And you can look through those and you can say, no, this is really not spam. But if there's anything suspicious, it'll end up in there. As Judy was saying, you have to be careful because some of her emails have been going into spam for some people. But there's a button that you can tell it this isn't spam. It'll put it back in your inbox and remember that you like emails that look like that. So that is a safety thing that comes with using Gmail, is that it has what's called spam filtering. Now, almost all email systems have something like that. They might call it folder junk instead of spam or other things like that. Did you want to add anything to that, Manette?
No, I think that covered it.
Okay. All right, Judy, what's next?
Okay, we've got so many here. It says Earthlink has a spaminator.
Right.
I used
So
Earthlink for 20 years.
Earthlink and lots of like the cable companies have their own email systems.
Right.
Probably be very similar to what I'm talking about today. They'll probably have settings, and they'll probably let you control how you see them, what colors you get, and all that kind of stuff. The Gmail settings are a little complicated, so I thought I'd talk about that one today. If you have specific ones you would like to get help with, you can either get technical help through Senior Planet or go to one of the classes that I do if it's on an Apple World, or Judy's husband John does one-on-one sessions for PC-based stuff. So we do have resources to help you with other email programs.
Yeah, I put the 800 number in there. That's the national hotline. You can call that at any time to ask your specific questions. And it's manned during New York hours, business hours for by trainers. So very good resource. Liz, you're asking about what keyboard shortcuts are. I mean, that's a whole big lesson unto itself. It's actually part of the computer basics course. Is that correct, Manette?
Not to the extent
Email
of,
has its own, which
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a good link, Dave, to an infographic that has the shortcuts on it.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
I can send that to
Let me
you.
just show this really fast. I wanted to fix my tabs anyway, so
Yeah, so we'll
let
send
me go
that
ahead and share this for just a second. All right.
Oh, just while you're doing that, Muriel in 2015 had
Thank you.
the ransomware virus that wanted Bitcoin. Oh, Muriel, that's
Oh,
something.
boy.
That's where you gotta back everything up. So you say to the people who want the Bitcoin, go ahead, take it. I don't care. I got it all backed up.
Yeah.
So be really, really careful. Back
Yeah.
up everything, every device you have.
Yeah, let me see. So let me go back to my settings.
Yeah,
I'm not
Gloria,
really, so I just show you what she's talking about here. This is the keyboard and shortcuts. So there are going to be shortcut keys depending whether you're on a Mac or a PC for doing things like undo and copy and paste. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about here is special keyboard shortcuts while you're looking at your Gmail. So to go to your next message, you would type N on your keypad and so on. And you can see I have actually set up a few of my own here that I use personally. So if this is of interest to you, you can either look up on the internet things that explain some of these, or just come in here and look at them and say, oh, well, N goes to the next message. The previous message is P. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then you can, there's these go-to things. This is mostly for, you know, what I would call people like me. They're normally called geeks. Okay. And so I spent, you know, 50 years doing programming. So I'm pretty good with a keyboard. And so if you come from a programming tradition, then you have to like leave the keyboard to go to your trackpad or your mouse, so that people like me that are a little strange like to do things on the keyboard that you could do with your mouse. But
Yeah,
normal people don't do that.
I'm the opposite. I hardly ever touch the keyboard, and I'm always
Yeah.
using the mouse.
Right.
So, you don't have
So
to-
like I would use the keyboard shortcut for copy, which is Command C on the Mac or Control C on the PC, where a lot of people would go to a menu, either a
Right.
pop-up menu or a menu on the top of the screen, and go to the edit menu and do copy. That, you know, that takes like 3 seconds, and the other one takes a half a second. So so that's why I do it that way.
Okay, Dave.
I won't call that justification, just explanation.
We've got a lot of hands up, plus I just want to get through some of these questions.
Sure.
Okay, so Diane is asking when you have a class, when are you having the class to clean out the emails? So on Wednesday, July 15th, we're doing Gmail searching and cleaning out your inbox, sent box, spam, and trash.
There's a separate one on searching, isn't there?
No, those are combined.
And then
It's searching within
oh, there's
Gmail. It's
the
not.
filter one, yeah.
Yes, and then we've got the labeling, yeah, on the day after.
We try to figure out things that might be of interest to people who use these Google applications. Obviously, not everybody does, but
Okay, Dave, next question. I'm trying to go fast
yeah,
here.
go ahead.
So how do you put something from, this is really great. How do you put something from your trash/spam into regular Gmail permanently?
Sure. Well, I'm actually going to do a whole thing on labels, but when you look at something in the trash, there's a way to just say this isn't trash and move it to your inbox. There's a button for that. Let me see if I can show that to you. I'll share my screen here in a second. I just want to get this up. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let me, I have a whole thing that I'm actually just finishing up right now that's talking about this particular problem. So I would suggest, we think we've scheduled it for next week, the labels thing.
Yes, it's on.
So if you go into your trash and let's say I got something from Gabby Giffords here, Giffords with an F. And up here on the top, you see these labels. So I had automatically put this into a probably trash thing, which is actually down here. I'll talk about that another day. And then it also says trash. So if I just click the X next to trash here, it goes away from trash and it's no longer there. Okay. And if I go into probably trash, we should see one that's red. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And I'll talk about this another day. Well, there's a couple of talks. One is how to do this. And the other is once you've done this, how to get rid of stuff, which is to select them all and delete them. And now it's gone back into the trash. So if I go back to the trash, we will see that Giffords one back in here. Does that help? This is a sort of a longer talk that I'll do on another day, but I thought I'd give you a flavor for it. So if you see something in the trash and you just click the little X on that trash, it leaves the trash. It acts just like any other label. Or you can also drag things. If you look at the list of things on the trash, you can drag them over to another label. Lots of different ways of doing the same thing.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to who had their hand up first, but I'm going to go with Judy Davis. Could you ask your question?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. So I'm very, very new to Senior Planet. So first, please explain, I came a little late. I had trouble signing into the class. Where would I go to find this recording?
I will email it to you. So did you put your email into the chat? Do you know how to do that?
I did. Take a look. Do you see it there? I mean, I don't know who I sent it to. I may have sent it to.
It doesn't matter. I get everything. So if you put it in,
okay.
I already have the email going. So let me, yeah. So just make sure your emails are in the chat. You'll get the recording. You will get the handouts. You'll get information about Dave's Apple Addicts. And I also put in the 800 number in for or isn't an 800 number, the National Tech Hotline number.
Great.
Any questions? You'll get the whole package in a follow-up email late this afternoon.
Oh, super. Okay, so that was the other question when you said something that you put a number in. So anytime I take a class, I don't even have to say why. I should just send my email address to
No, I'm the only one who does this.
Oh.
So that is not likely to be the case. So I don't think so.
What Dude's talking about is this for this Colorado Lunch and Learn we send out emails that have information on handouts and recordings and
Oh,
stuff.
okay, but not all Senior Planet.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think others can manage that. Yeah. So
And just, could you repeat what he mentioned? I know so Dave was nice enough to say that there's an Apple class, and I
yeah,
didn't.
so I'll send that information too. Yeah,
Okay.
Dave's Apple information. Okay, Faye, how about you?
Okay, I have a question about if I set something up in settings, such as being able to see 100 emails, if on my PC, let's say through Chrome, and I go into my email on my iPad or my iPhone, will I still have those settings when I go directly to my email, or will I have to set that up completely on my iPhone or my iPad?
Well, it depends on whether you're using the Gmail application on your iPhone or your iPad. I apologize for how confusing this is today. This is not going
Well,
quite
I'm
as well
going
as I would like.
directly.
But
I'm going directly to my Gmail. It's on my, it's on my screen. So
right, so you're on your PC now. What we're talking about here is the settings for the browser application. If you went to a different computer and looked at your Gmail in your browser, these settings would automatically come up on any browser you're using. If you go to a different application, like the Mail app, the MAIL app on your iPhone or iPad, then those have their own settings.
Right.
And there is a Gmail application on the iPhone and the iPad, and some of these settings would be associated with your account. Like if you change your accounts and stuff, that would probably work across those. But the details of how things look and stuff like that are probably not going to transfer to the Gmail application. Is that fair, Manya?
Yeah, they won't all transfer.
Some of them will.
Because, yeah,
because you're really not using your browser. If you went on your iPad and went into Safari or some other browser and went to the Gmail website, then yes, you'd see exactly what you see on your PC. But if you're using a different program, either the email program that comes with the iPad, which is called Mail, it's that one that has the white envelope on the blue rounded rectangle. If you're using that one, that has its own settings.
Okay, thank you. That's clear.
Oh, good, Faye. I'm so glad. One thing I want to address, Suzanne mentioned that it's hard to see the shared screen, and she used a magnifying sheet. By the way, if ever the shared screen is hard for you to see, if it's too small, please speak up, because we can enlarge that, and then you can also potentially enlarge it on your device. So anyway, I just don't want anybody to feel that they can't see really well.
If you're, now we're going to send out the document that I was sharing with you, because if you're looking at this like on an iPhone, it's really hard to see something this complicated on an iPhone. But you'll be able to get the whole document. You could print it out or look at it on a device with a bigger screen and then see, oh, that's what he was talking about. Right, so you'll be able to see it a little better.
Now, we know that this is complex here, and we know everybody has different devices plus different sets of circumstances with email. We were specifically talking about Gmail today, but always remember you can get that tech help, that one-on-one tech help. And so I would really write down your confusions or your questions, and then make sure you call that number, that national hotline number, or we can, you'll get the information about Dave's app for Apple people. You'll get that information. I want to go to Merlin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering how I could sync my Gmail messages from my device. I get the more recent ones on my device, and I wanted to know how to sync it with my PC. the messages I get on the device, I don't always get all of them on my laptop, on my PC. So
and how are you looking how are you looking at your email on your PC? Are you doing that through the browser?
yeah, through Chrome, I use Chrome, right?
And how are you
So
doing it on the device?
Well, I mean, I
Is
use,
this a phone or a tablet? What's your
Yeah.
other device?
yeah, I guess I use Chrome also. On both.
So
Yeah,
what can
I would
happen is,
say get some technical help with that. That doesn't sound right.
well, actually,
They should be the synchronized.
Dave, they would be synchronized, but depending on if you set up some of your folders or if you do certain things on the device, it will not carry through back to the email that is stored on the server. I have seen where if I download or I do certain things on my email from my phone, either iPhone or Android, then when I go to my browser, that email is either not there or so that.
Yeah, I
don't do-
I would do this as a one-on-one or class thing because that shouldn't
Yeah.
be true. In fact, when that happens to you, let me know and I want to see it. Because
Like if I read
you
it,
put labels on emails
mhm.
on one device, they will appear everywhere. And so there aren't really folders in the Gmail world. There are in some email worlds, but not Gmail. There's this thing called labels, which I'll talk about another day. And the difference is that an email can have multiple labels, so you'll see it in multiple places. But if you label something on one device, it will definitely sync to any other device.
And I see this more often when people have, say, Comcast or something else as an intermediary. I will see it not syncing all the time with what happens.
Oh, I have
So,
Verizon. I have Verizon as my,
yeah.
so.
Now, what is your email? Sorry, Marilyn. What is
Yeah.
your email address? Is it at gmail.com or at
Yes.
something else?
Yes, it's still Dave. It's still Gmail. There.
Yeah, I have never seen that, so I would like to see that on a one-on-one to try to understand that better. That should not be happening. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay, let's go to Phyllis. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Oh, hi. I send things to spam. Sometimes when I click on it, it says, this is spam, and it goes to the spam. And the other times it says, this is spam and unsubscribe. Is
Right.
it the email or email that I'm getting that decides that? But I never know.
But right, I think what you're talking about, Phyllis, is there's a spam button on the email, up one of those top buttons that looks like a stop sign with a little exclamation mark or something in it. I don't remember offhand. Yeah, when you click on that, you might get two different pop-ups depending on whether it sees an unsubscribe link inside the email. If it sees a link that's labeled unsubscribe, I actually talk about this in another thing I'm doing, but on the labels talk. But if you click on the button that says spam, it will, if it sees an unsubscribe link, it gives you the option of moving it to spam and also sending you, clicking on that unsubscribe link, or you can just, the default is just to send it to spam. Whereas if it doesn't see an unsubscribe link, you get a slightly different message that only gives you the option of confirming that you want it to go to spam. Is that what your question's about?
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought also.
Oh, Phyllis, sorry.
But if it goes to spam, will the next one go to spam also? That's similar?
Yeah, this is where having Google look at your emails it can be a positive. The fact that you send it to spam makes it look at that message and say, well, I wonder why Phyllis doesn't want to see these. It could be who it's from or something about the message. And it adjusts its idea of what you want in spam according to when you press those buttons. So there is a very good chance that the next time that comes in, it will go directly to spam. I'm going to do a talk at some point on filtering. When is that, Judy? It might be in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And what I do personally is when stuff comes into the inbox, that whether or not I've subscribed to it, if I don't want it anymore, like when I unsubscribe, I do that unsubscribe thing, and I might move it to spam or I might move it somewhere else, but I'll also add a filter to it to explicitly tell Gmail, I don't want to see these anymore. And I'll explain how to do that another day.
Yeah, so that will be on July 23rd, and this will all be on the Colorado events calendar. So you can just Google Senior Planet Colorado events.
These are kind of more advanced topics, which I'm happy to try to explain to people. I apologize if I'm confusing people, but I'm happy to try to explain these. So the filters are kind of a more advanced topic, but very handy, extremely handy. Yeah, and that's how I keep my inbox down to a couple dozen messages.
We've got another question. Go ahead, Jan. You want to ask your question?
Yeah, now that I'm on my laptop, I see that my trash, I have over 1,000 trash.
Okay.
And I can only delete them 50 at a time?
Well, if you click on that checkbox above all the messages, it'll have a little link to say select all of them.
I have, and it's in blue, and I select.
Yeah, and if you click that, it'll delete all of them at once.
It's not. I'm clicking it now. It's in blue. Let's see.
Why don't you? Yeah.
And next to it, it says all 4,172.
Right, so click on that. Yeah.
Do I clear selection?
No, just click on that link.
Click on the 4,000 link.
Yeah, if you click on, and now if you go delete, and now if you just say delete, then it'll delete all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, empty trash can.
Confirm bulk. Why does it say 4,000 when it only says 996 on the sidebar?
That's because you haven't read 996 of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, and these are things that you have put in the trash by hitting the little trash icon. Now, normally it throws things away after 30 days. That's undoubtedly another setting. So you may have your account set up so it's not throwing anything away. But first of all, you don't have to really worry about how much junk you've got in the trash. But if it bothers you and you want to get rid of all of them at once without looking at them, that's the way to do it.
Now, if that says it on my laptop,
right.
Does it delete it also on my iPad and my iPhone?
It's all the same.
Then it takes up space, doesn't it?
Well,
no, it's on the cloud.
It takes up space on your space in the Google Cloud.
Right.
You have I think a 5 GB limit of space. Email messages are tiny. So files on computers sort of come in things that differ by about a factor of 1,000. Mm-hmm. So email messages are small, pictures are about 1,000 times bigger, videos are about 1,000 times bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you're now talking about the little guys. And so you can have thousands of emails and it will be much less than a short video.
I thought it was automatically deleted after like 30 days or something.
There's undoubtedly a setting for that.
There is a setting for it, and it can be turned off. So it just may be turned off for your. Yeah. Yeah. So if you contact one of the tech help people, they can help you change that and turn that setting back on.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
But it's harmless. So. Yeah, I've seen people with 20,000 emails in their inbox. That's more of a problem.
Yes, I have a friend like that.
4,000 in your trash.
I've got that.
So not to worry.
Okay, I just want to address, people are asking how they can get the calendar from us. You have to go to the Senior Planet website. Every single week, all of us in the different locations around the country, we post to our individual pages the events that we're having on the following week, right? So weekly, we update this. So every week, it's the new stuff goes on there. Some of it goes out pretty far, the things they know, like the exercise classes that go on all the time. Those will go out much further than a week, could be months in advance, because they know they're going to do those consistently. And the Lunch and Learn, we do something different all the time. So ours is ever changing. So you have to just go to the Senior Planet website, and then you'll see the locations, and it says things like what's online. We list our things, whether they're national or local, but you are welcome to come to anything. So you can go and look at all the different locations. There's 6 different locations, plus the general national online. And you can just look and search. Just remember that you want to adjust for your time zone. So if you come to Colorado, those times listed on the Colorado page are Colorado time zone, Mountain Time, which is 2 hours different from New York. New York, you're ahead of us, and then Pacific on the West Coast, it's an hour different. So anyone is welcome. You just have to go and do that search, and you can do that every weekend and pick and choose what you want for that following week. So there's no specific calendar. It's all listed on our events pages based on location. I think that's it. I don't see any more raised hands. I think we got the questions in the chat. If I did not, speak up right now if I missed something. And then I will go ahead and when we close out this meeting, it will download the recording, and then I'll upload it, get the email all ready for you, and send that out late this afternoon. Takes a long time to upload it.
Judy, I'm sorry, Judy, can you send me the papers also? This is Bernadette.
Yes, Bernadette, and I have your email from yesterday.
Or I can give it to you again.
No, it's gibbonsb@si.edu.
Right. Okay. That's
Yeah,
correct.
got it right here. Also, I will include the link for all of our past events. If anybody wants to listen to a recording or take down, download the handouts, you are more than welcome to do that. Elisa,
great.
Go ahead. Elisa?
Yeah, hi. I don't use much Gmail, but I had it for a couple of years and it disappeared completely. What happened to it?
So I want to warn people, Gmail is a free service, and there are glitches that happen with Gmail. I lost all of my Gmail archive from 2004 through 2014, maybe even 15. And so these problems where the Gmail disappear can be a glitch of something that's going on with Gmail. And unfortunately, because it is a free service, there isn't necessarily support. So I have heard of people's accounts where they haven't used them disappearing. I haven't had any of my accounts that I haven't been using in a while disappear, but my main active account that I've been active in since 2002 did lose all of its archive, and Gmail never did explain what that was. So
yeah, I've not heard of that.
Just be aware.
I believe you.
Yeah, Dave, that's happened to enough people that we've had thread discussions, in the help. And that's why I was saying these emails disappearing, it's not always, unfortunately, Gmail is a free service, so you just can't get full explanation for some of the mysteries that happen with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've not heard of that, but I believe you. Yeah, the other thing is if you have particularly important emails, then you may want to either print them into a file and put those on your computer or on a shared thing on the cloud, or treat them as files rather than emails if they're really critical things. So that's sort of a backup strategy for really important things. So that oftentimes there's a little print icon on the top right of your Gmail message. Rather than printing the whole screen, it will print just the email message. And that's the better way of printing email. I can show that to you. That way you don't get the columns and all that kind of stuff. But at any rate, you'll see a little printer icon in the upper right part of the email message, one of those buttons. And then depending on how your device is set up, there may very well be an option to save it as a PDF. That's a file on your computer that looks exactly like what you see. And that's a good way of saving critical emails. And then you just put them in a folder someplace of important emails. So that's an option you may want to think about. I have never had that problem or heard of it, so so I don't think it's common.
No, but it has happened enough, as I said, that on the help, there's several threads about it.
Yeah.
I was doing backup for my critical things, but not backup in general. And so, I lost years of emails.
That's terrible. Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
Had 2 Gmail accounts and wasn't using one, and they deleted it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not consistent what I'm seeing. Some of these things happen, so I don't know quite how Gmail decides what.
Yeah, I'm sure that they would wait a certain period before that happens. But the other thing you can do, as I mentioned, is at least in case of pulling in another Gmail account, if you have another one, you can actually pull those messages in. It's called importing. So if you had, let's say you change from Verizon to Gmail and you decide you want to start using a gmail.com address, you can go on to that settings area and under accounts and import, there's an import feature. And you type in your password and information about your Verizon email account, your account information, and it will go ahead and in the background, it will pull all those emails into your Gmail world. So that's a transition kind of thing if you want to switch to using Gmail. That's very handy. It can sometimes take a couple of days depending on how many emails there are, but that sort of happens in the background.
Uncle Paul is asking about, can you create a local folder to save emails?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was talking about. If you're talking about inside the Gmail system. Yeah, not inside the Gmail system, but inside your file system, you could create a folder on your computer or on your shared drive. It could be on Google Drive or iCloud or whatever, and just do a print and save PDF versions of critical emails to that folder. And it's transitioning from the email world to the file world then. It's sort of confusing because people see folders and stuff on their computer and they see email messages and things that look like folders. In the case of Gmail, they really aren't there, because in the file world, every file is in exactly one folder. It's a straight hierarchy. It's a tree, right? You don't have a leaf on multiple branches, right? So
my Earthlink page, the online or on the web page, has a place where you can put local folders. It's actually part of the page.
I see.
And then you can put you can make a ton of different categories. So what I do is, if an email comes in that is a part of a category, I just slide it down into the local folder and it's actually off the
Now, are you running a separate program to use Earthlink that way? Are you doing that through your browser?
Has that built in, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of one in Gmail. There could be one, but I don't know of one. Yeah, the reason that's not normally done, it has to do with security. Okay, that normally web-based applications don't have a sort of hidden access to your file system. And so when you set that up, you may have to go through some kind of
It's
pop-up.
part of, it's actually part of the program. It
Right, but I
doesn't seem to
think
be in the program. In other words, it has access to your computer, but it doesn't seem to be something that it goes through their stuff. You're just kind of taking it off the program.
I'd be happy to look at that, but normally, having built lots of web applications, normally web applications can't write on your computer.
So
Okay.
Dave,
So if you're putting
Earthlink
it on
is
your computer, it may be putting it somewhere else. Like
Earthlink is
somewhere
more of a
else.
legacy style email. And because I was on Earthlink from when it first started up until just literally a year ago, I really loved using Earthlink. I just can't have 20 email accounts anymore. And so I gave up my Earthlink account after years. So Earthlink actually does operate differently than almost any other mail client.
What I'm saying is, if you're starting a program called Earthlink, that's completely believable. If you're starting a web page called Earthlink, that's not believable. That's what I'm saying. Okay, because web-based applications don't get access to your computer.
Right, but that's why I was letting you know it's a legacy style program.
So it's,
you know, so it had.
If you go in and click on Earthlink icon that starts a program, sure, it can save things locally.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it through the web browser, that's not likely to work without some magic, right? Which I've never heard of. Yeah. And in fact, that's something that web application developers have wanted to be able to do that for years, but it's a security problem. They can't look at your files. They can't write files. But if you're starting
Earthlink operates a little bit like Zoom.
What's that?
In that regard.
Yeah, like Zoom is its own program. Zoom can do whatever your computer lets it do. And in fact, on the Mac world, there's a security settings where you have to explicitly give Zoom access to things like your camera and your file system and stuff like that. Yeah, because the operating systems are getting much better about that. But it wouldn't be a web application like Gmail, is what I'd love to see it if it is, because that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to cut it off now.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, look for that email this afternoon, and hopefully you can get all your questions asked through some other resources that we have for you. So thank you so much, Dave and Manette. Thanks so much.
Dave.
It was lovely. Great information, and thanks to all of you for hanging on for so long too, and what great questions.
No, we can get off. Okay.
Enjoy your day, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
The video a little bit.
Bye.
Yeah.